Hey, what's going on, all my screenwriters? Today we have our first video, but we're not focused on that. By the way, sorry for the terrible microphone quality. I should be hopefully getting a new microphone soon. That out of the way, let's just jump into this video. So I'm a little bit late to this topic, but basically, if you've been keeping up with the Boruto manga, you might have seen this article about a month ago that teased that the Boruto manga is going to be intense, dark, and have struggles to the death, quote unquote. And the reason this is important is this is not the article stating this is the series illustrator. Now I want you to keep in mind that the Boruto manga is overlooked by Kishimoto, drawn by an illustrator, and the story is directly written by a third person. So this is the illustrator making these claims. I don't know how valid his word is. I can assume that he receives the story before actually having to illustrate it, obviously, but I don't know how much so in advance. He could have been looking at the January chapter with Naruto vs. Delta and be making his assumptions based off of that. However, something tells me that that is not the case. Now, if we look at it through a screenwriter's point of view, what we can do is we can see the line of climax, which basically states that the beginning of a arc or chapter is going to be less climactic than the end of a chapter. It's the basic principle that you've been taught since middle school. Considering the high-octane beginning of this January chapter, my guess is that this arc, this Kawaki arc, could be semi-close to ending, or at least this half of it, and the next half would be kind of like the second season of a all-around series. The stronger half, it's known as an antecedent, and then of course followed by the resolution, which would be the death or after a death. As we have seen in the Boruto anime, it can be assumed that Onoki has died, and again, screenwriter's POV, there has to be consequences for the actions in order to move on. This way, there will not be a war between the leaf or the stone. Considering this is filler, this is how they move on past this point, to where this arc is important, yet is not relevant in terms of canon. This is what is known as world filler. They've done it a lot within Naruto, such as the Kakashi backstory or the Itachi filler arc. Now this is relevant because it's taking actions that basically cannot happen in the canonity. Is that a word, canonity? It cannot happen in the Boruto manga now. For example, Onoki cannot appear in the Boruto manga, otherwise this is just going to be an entire retcon of this entire arc. Or, as we've seen with the Boruto anime, they could go a different path as they've done before. Now what does this mean? It means when we look at the Naruto vs. Delta fight, we can begin to see what the illustrator is referring to within 2019. I believe this is just the beginning of the dark and high-octane scenes, and that within the future, we are going to see characters struggling to the death. Now, my guess is who all are we going to see struggling to the death? Within the Naruto series, we can assume a couple of individuals. Now, I could make theories and just guess my predictions, but looking at the screenwriter's perspective, I don't want to do that. I want to indicate some sort of suggestions to where we can see completed character arcs and how stories can move on. That being said, I'm going to completely forget what I just said and give you my theory for the next person to die. Because of the suggested indications that the illustrator has given off, I'm going to assume something similar to Onoki is going to happen. By the way, Onoki would be the first obvious candidate. But I'm gonna say my man Katatsuke is gonna be the next to bite the dust. Based off of what happened to Onoki, he has to suffer for his consequences, which you could argue he's already done. However, with the dark themes of Boruto coming up, it could be assumed that Katatsuki could die. And this would have impacts throughout the entire series along with Boruto's character arc. If he is going to die, he should die to the technology that he created. And this would bring up the theme of, is technology good or bad? Now, as we've seen, Seke died for Mitsuki, which means Boruto has a character arc, Mitsuki has a character arc, now we just need Sarada to have a character arc. Now, who would be most impactful to die for Sarada? Whereas I would say Sasuke, what are the odds that that's going to happen? The odds that that's going to happen in the next arc is very low, considering, first of all, Sasuke's too strong to die, basically, compared to everyone else in the series, unless all of the entire ninja world teams up on him, but even then, he might still make it. But also because Sasuke is strong enough that he needs to be able to train Boruto and Sarada and potentially Mitsuki in order for them to grow. As you know, the Naruto series loves to do power creep, so we need an actual making sense way to do so. So who's going to be important to Sarada for them to die? I would argue maybe Sakura, but probably not. She would be a good candidate, but I just can't see that happening. That being said, I think Konohamaru is a likely candidate, as he has been flagged with death several times this arc. So assuming the climactic scale, it could be assumed that a major character is going to die by the end of 2019, and I would assume that somebody kind of major is going to die in the middle of 2019. So that being said, my predictions from a story writer's perspective is that Katatsuki is going to die somewhere around August or June, and that Konohamaru could die by the end of this year. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Give me your theories. Give me your suggestions for how to make this better, other than a good microphone. If you can link a cheap microphone that's better than a Blue Yeti Snowball or something, that's what I'm using, along with soundproofing and a pop filter, all sorts of stuff. If you have suggestions for what other future videos you would like, leave me a description of that in the comments, whatever. You know what to do. Obviously, like all that. Here, I'll just have an intro. Oh, this video sucked!